Welcome to a new edition of the Neon Jazz Interview Series with Brooklyn-based jazz bassist, composer, and educator Alexis Cuadrado. He grew up in Barcelona, Spain, and his latest 2016 album, Poetica, is a statement to him being in America and having roots in Spain. He's trying to come to grips with his culture and identity. He's a very well-educated man, learning at fine institutions like the Aaron Copland School of Music at Queens College in New York. And he is also a teacher at the New School for Jazz and Contemporary Music in New York. He talked openly about his jazz heroes, why he loves jazz, and who he thinks he really is, along with much more. So please get to know Alexis and dig this interview, my friends.
Thanks for taking a little time out for me today.
Of course, my pleasure.
So I'm going to go ahead and just jump right in here. I know you have your new album, Poetica. But before we get into that, give me kind of a brief snapshot of activity that's going on with you lately.
Well, I'm a busy guy. First of all, I'm a parent of 7-year-old twins, so that keeps me pretty busy.
Yeah.
Second, I just finished my semester at the New School, where I teach, the New School for Jazz and Contemporary Music, and I teach quite a few classes there at the university, and it's really a good experience. I'm also working in quite a few productions of music for radio and podcasts and stuff like that. I just finished music for the New Yorker Radio Hour, which is a nationally syndicated radio show. I'm working on my new website, which is going to launch anytime. And I'm working on practicing music for my CD release concerts this weekend. So that's what I've been doing.
Let me get into Poetica, which it mentions several times your cultural dislocation and kind of, you adapting to English in America. Give me an idea of what this album's all about for you.
I think the album is a reflection about identity, It's like, who am I, where did I come from, and where am I going? Or who are we, where are we come from, and where are we going? Since it's like I'm the catalyst of the project, if you will, but it is really a collaboration between the three of us, Although it's a one-sided collaboration, I'll tell you more about it. It's just, for me, it's just it's a good, the liner notes really nail it, It's I always feel this sort of of course I belong here because now I am here. This is my, this is my home. I'm an American citizen. I've been in New York for 16 years. I'm almost 17. When I go back to Spain, I don't feel like I belong there either. So it's a weird feeling. I don't really belong anywhere, but I belong everywhere. So through this poetry, I found it was, the poetry was a very good vehicle for me to express that idea of belonging and non-belonging at the same time. And not an identity crisis, but a reflection about what is my identity, And it's basically a pretty open page portrait. It's this is who I am, and this is what I like, and this is what I do. And that's about it. And I think it's an honest artistic statement, if you will.
So let's talk about this. Growing up in Barcelona, how did you accumulate a love of jazz growing up there?
It just kind of hit me. It was it's a little weird because I love music in general, and that's an interesting, actually, distinction, because I never thought of jazz about, this is jazz and this is not jazz too much,
Yeah.
I love music. I played music since I was young. I started playing really, really seriously when I was a teenager, and I went to music school there, so that meant the only music school that was available at the time, it was a jazz school. So I went to jazz school, and then there I kind of got hooked with jazz. And I followed this sort of backward progression, and at the time, this was in the mid '90s. Actually, the late '80s, early '90s. The jazz scene was fusion, So I was totally crazy about Jaco Pastorius and the Electric Miles stuff, and and so on and so forth. Then I started this like backward trip to like discover Charlie Parker and all the beboppers, and then backward more and more and more and more. And I mean, the latest stop on the trip is like the last few years I've been studying a lot of like 16th century counterpoint, so it just keeps going backwards.
Yeah.
And it's like, and then I love jazz. I mean, again, I spent years like completely devoted to like studying the jazz tradition and learning all the songs and playing them. And I used to host a jam session in Barcelona with a trio. I did that for 3 years every week. And every week we would play different songs. I put a lot of work into becoming a professional, competent jazz musician.
Yeah, when I can tell by your education that you've really gone through the ringer. But in the very beginning, why did you pick the bass?
It was by total chance, because when I was in high school, I played guitar, so honestly, it was a lot easier to attract attention in recess times, like playing guitar, and and all the girls would come and sit and look rather than playing bass. But I happened to have a bass in my house that belonged to my elementary school, so I borrowed it, and I still have it. I'm still borrowing it after all these years, and we were going to start a band, and so since I had the bass, I was a bass player. That was that. So the bass found me rather than I found the bass. And then a couple of epiphanies happened. I listened to that album Decoy by Miles Davis. I don't know if you know that album.
Oh yeah.
It's like an amazing 80s fusion album, and the bassist is Daryl Jones there. It just totally flipped with that album. And then I saw Carlos Benavent, who's like an amazing bass player. He used to play with Paco de Lucia. I saw a concert of his, and he kind of like drew a lot from Jaco. And then once I discovered Jaco, I was like totally hooked. So I went bananas with learning as much Jaco as I could. Everything he did, and transcribing and trying to play like he played, unsuccessfully, obviously, because nobody can.
Yeah.
But it was a great way to like really go into it,
Well, and I guess that kind of leads into another question that I have. If you could get into a time machine and see any jazz show, would you go see Jaco, or who would you go see?
I would definitely go see Charlie Parker. I would definitely go see Coltrane. I saw Miles, but I saw Miles with like his last band with Kenny Garrett and so on. But I would definitely like to see Miles both with the first and second quintet. And I mean, I would like to see Miles with like a lot of different bands actually. I'd love to see Sonny Rollins play like that live at the Vanguard with Alvin and Wilbur Ware. I love those albums. I just really love them. I'd love to see Louis Armstrong, to see Billie Holiday. I mean, that's about it.
That's a good list, man. So you've been well educated in a formal environment over the years. You've got your bachelor's and your master's. What advice from teachers has resonated with you for all these years? What really comes to the forefront that you think about on a regular basis?
The best advice was from, when I had finished school in Barcelona, I went to study in Paris with this incredible bassist, Francois Rabat. And actually I did all my school on electric bass. I didn't start on the upright until I was like 21 or 22. So I started pretty late. He was like completely transformed the way I thought about music, because his approach is like so good and so methodical and so thorough, and yet so much fun. And but at some point after like 2 years of studying with him, I was like, I'm not sure about this whole classical music thing. I'm not sure that's what I want to do, because he's like a classical guy. He said, do whatever you do. It's fine. You want to do jazz, do jazz. You want to do tango, do tango. It doesn't matter, But whatever you do, Just do it really well. Like, work your ass off, and then you will be fine. And that's true. That's true. It stands true to this day. It's an amazing piece of advice. Nobody else gave me good advice, actually, besides that.
Nice.
Not as good as that, yeah.
Yeah, that's great, man. So let me ask you this. Why do you love jazz?
Well, as I said before, I love jazz, but I just love jazz when it hits me. I don't love everything jazz. I'm not a jazz nut. I like great music, and I don't care whether it's jazz or it's not jazz. And I don't even know what is jazz. And like, we could have a 10-day argument about it, and people fight about this all the time, and I could care less. That does not mean I don't care about jazz. I love jazz, and I respect it. I care about it. I study it. I love it. But it's like one of the things that I love. I love jazz because I love improvisation, and jazz is one of the few music styles or music genres that is based on improvisation, and that's it. That's why I love the most about jazz. To me, jazz is music that has improvisation at a certain level, and in order to improvise, you need to understand the language, and in order to understand the language, you need to study it. So it's like it's a craft, I think.
So based on the stellar advice that you've received in an educational environment, as an educator yourself, what is your philosophy to teaching students?
Well, I try to give them the material, the information. I try to make sure that they all understand it, because everyone understands information differently. And then I try to just sort of instigate this work ethic of like really being thorough and really going through the material and like really going as deep as you possibly can. And then I try to make them, get their act together and submit their work on time, be professional, show up. It's just the basic stuff,
Yeah.
And like just make them accountable to embrace high standards from the beginning. It doesn't matter if they're 18 years old or 19 years old. Like, do your best at all times.
So let me ask you this. Everybody has a version of who you are, your family, your friends, your business associates, the fans that you play for. But who do you think you are?
Oh, man. I don't know. I don't know the answer to that question. Who do I think I am? Well, I'm a musician. I'm a composer. I'm an artist. That's who I think I am. It's very simple.
Right on.
Yeah.
That's beautiful. And I think that's the best way to kind of wrap everything up. Thank you for giving me an overview of your new album. Let me into your world a little bit. I appreciate your time today, Alexis.
Thank you so much. It's a pleasure.
Thanks for listening and tuning in to yet another Neon Jazz interview, where we give you a bit of insight into the finest players in New York, Kansas City, and spots all over the world, giving fans all that jazz. And thanks to Alexis for his time, music, and making the American jazz scene that much more vibrant. If you want to hear more interviews, go to Famous Interviews with Joe Domino on the iTunes Store, or visit theneonjazz.blogspot.com for all things Neon Jazz. Until next time, enjoy the music, my friends.
Sound instead to stand on.
Neon Jazz.